Hello, welcome to English 1, Unit 10, Part 1 with your Professor Neil and his TA Younghee.
Hello, this is TA Younghee. What a beautiful swan.
Yes, we can see the beautiful swan in the lake. So Younghee, when you see a swan, how does it make you feel?
Pleasant, happy, and it reminds me of Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky music.
Wow, very nice choice. And talking about nice things and happy things, we're going to warm up by thinking about some of the things that make you feel happy. So what makes you happy?
Family, friends, activities, my piano, and experiences, new experiences, and food and drink, etc.
Etc. So what food makes you happy?
Tteokbokki
Tteokbokki.
and sundae.
Okay, that's good. And what experiences make you happy?
Visiting beautiful scenery. Visiting my family.
Okay, that's good. And what activities make you happy?
Piano, flamenco, castanets, and so on.
Very good. So these are some of the things that make people feel happy. And when they feel happy, what do? They
smile.
Smile, yes.
Cheese.
So when you're happy, you smile. But you're not always happy. Sometimes you're angry. And
Too much work. Traffic is very heavy. Lots of study to do. I hate losing games. Why professor always win? And bad news.
Bad news.
You have to go to school again?
Yes. Well, like Corona in the news, war, or just
hot weather. Summer is coming.
Yes, these things can make you feel angry. And when you feel angry, you might
play Angry Bird game.
Shout, yes. So those are some of the ideas that we think about when we're happy or angry, and that's our little warm-up. Because in Unit 10, in the starter, you can see it says, when I'm happy.
Hello, Kitty Younghee.
And Younghee is here to remind you to take some notes as we work our way through the unit.
Write down.
So as it says, match the words on the left with the ones on the right. Then take turns asking and answering questions. When do you smile? I smile when I'm happy.
So someone asks, when do you do something? You answer with I'm doing something when something.
Yes, good Younghee, yes, exactly. So like when something is happening. When do you do something? And so you can see over here, she has a smile.
Wow, she's got a beautiful wig with the unicorn.
Yes, and that maybe is making her smile. So we asked the question, when do you smile? So the first one from the book, we have the first example, number 1. I smile when I am happy. But we can also reverse the sentence to start it with when, so that it reads...
you change the order of these two sentences, right? The first sentence says, when I'm happy, comma, I smile.
Yes. So there we go. When I'm happy, I smile.
You can also contract by using apostrophe M.
Contraction. So I am can become I'm. Right? To make it contraction and shorter. So there we go. That's when do you smile? I smile when I'm happy. Or when do you smile? When I'm happy, I smile. Both styles.
Correct.
Both are correct. Both work. So smile goes with
happy.
Next one in the picture. What do we see in the picture? So when do you do something? Younghee, what is this?
Looks like pills. The medicine
pill. Perfect. Okay, medicine. It is medicine. Yes, it's pills for medicine.
Reminds me of the Queen's Gambit, Netflix.
So looking at the options in the book,
Mhm.
when do you take medicine?
I take medicine when I'm sick.
Yes. So that's method 1. I take medicine when I'm sick, or in the opposite order.
When I'm sick, comma, I take medicine.
Yes. So when I'm sick, comma, I take medicine. So notice here as well, the contraction can happen anytime. But I am can be shortened. But the point here is with when. When can come in the middle of the clauses or
We
sentences.
don't need the comma.
No comma. But if you start with when, followed by the next clause, you need a comma.
I know because when is a linking word, conjunction.
It's a conjunction.
Mm.
Yes. So there we go. Take medicine.
Sick.
Goes with sick. Let's do 2 more. Let's just do 2 more. So when, so on her forehead, we call this the forehead. Right, when do you do something? So you can see here the drops of water on her head. So Yonghee, what are these?
Sweat.
Sweat, yes. So she is sweating. She is sweating. So you might ask the question, when do you sweat?
I sweat when I am hot.
Right?
Or I am nervous.
Yes.
Either is fine. In the book, there are 2 things.
Hot would have been okay too.
Yes.
Okay.
So, both okay.
Both okay. And nervous, you can see if someone has an exam, they're feeling nervous. So they say, when I'm nervous, I sweat.
I don't sweat when I'm nervous, Professor Neil.
Some people do. And so you can see here, both sentences have the contraction, so you can use it as often as you like. So let's do 1 more. So that's
sweat with nervous.
yes. And so when do you do something? So what does he do here?
He's using amplifier. Megaphone.
So yes, he's going to shout. He wants to shout. So when do you shout?
I shout when I am angry.
Yes, I shout when I'm angry, or
when I'm angry, I shout.
Yes, the other way round. Angry. Okay, with the contraction again. And so it's saying when you do something, it causes you to do something else or to feel something. So when something happens, it causes you to feel in a certain way. So these ones, bite your nails, yawn, have a snack, blush. We will leave those ones for you to fill in and check your answers at the back of the book. And for now, we'll move on to the dialogue and then on to the grammar to look at more using the word when, right, which is the focus of our unit here. So first up, we're going to read the dialogue. So you want to listen. I'll read Sophia, and Yonghee, you read Dave, okay?
Dave.
Okay. Did you feel the earth quake on Saturday?
No, I didn't. I was walking in the park. What were you doing when it happened?
I was cleaning my apartment.
Was everything shaking?
Yes, a couple of pictures fell off the shelf. It was really scary.
Scary.
So in this thing, you can see there are some grammar in the meaning chunk related to the be verb, past, and the verb plus ing. And we're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. So you can see here, you've got the be verb and the verb plus ing. Right, and that's our grammar that we're looking at today. So just to ask Yonghee a couple of questions. When was the earthquake?
On Saturday.
Where was Sophia when the earthquake happened?
Sophia was in her apartment.
And where was Dave when the earthquake happened?
He was walking in the park.
Yes. So, where was he? He was in the park. What was he doing? He was walking. What was Sophia doing when the earthquake happened?
She was cleaning her apartment.
And what happened to the pictures in her apartment when the earthquake happened?
2 old pictures fell off the shelf.
Yeah, 2 of the pictures fell off the shelf.
Or a couple of pictures fell off the shelf.
So when the earthquake happened, how did Sophia feel?
Sophia, she felt really scary.
She felt really scared.
The earthquake was really scary. Therefore, Sophia was scared.
Yeah, so the grammar has to change a little bit for talking about Sophia. So in this one, because the earthquake happened in the past, because Sophia was cleaning her apartment in the past, we're using past tense. Past tense. So all these are using past tense to talk about something that happened in the past. Happened in the past.
Professor Neil, what's ing for?
We're going to talk about that shortly in the grammar section. And here is the grammar section.
Ooh, grammar.
The ing relates to this part of grammar that's called the past progressive.
What's progressive?
Something that goes on in the past.
So it continues.
Yes, it happens over a continuous period of time. How long that time is?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter and is not discussed here.
So, past progressive is continued acting or action happened in the past.
Yes, happening in the past. And so these ones are the past progressive sections for the verbs. And then we've got over here, we have these ones related to the when section.
So after when word sentences is the hint of what tense was happening.
Yes.
So rank.
Oh, sorry. And yes, as you mentioned, so they're verb phrases. All right, and those tenses are using past progressive, and they're using, so there's the past progressive with the ing, and the other ones that are marked in red, right, are past.
The simple past.
Simple past, yes. And we have some more of those used in the dialogue. So happened is in simple past, and some of the others are in simple past too. So here they're using a mixture of verb tenses.
So then be verb here before main verb ing doesn't have any meaning, but it only shows the past tense.
Yes, past tense.
So then this is not main, it's auxiliary verb.
Auxiliary verb, and we've talked about that before.
Helping verb.
Yes, helping verb. So we're going to look here about the auxiliary verbs and the past progressive and the when clause. So we're going to talk about that for probably the rest of this part 1 of the video, because it's quite important, because a lot of things happen in the past and we talk about things in the past often.
This is very interesting, at the same time not easy, because we don't use this be verb to make past progressive in my Korean language.
No, it's
English.
Part of the English language, and it's what makes it quite difficult. The be verb is a very difficult part of the English language to
Be
use.
auxiliary. verb.
use, yes. Because sometimes it's auxiliary, sometimes it's the main verb. But here it's the auxiliary verb. So here, you hear us keep saying the word auxiliary, auxiliary. So here, this whole section is what we call the verb phrase. So between the subject and the object, we have the verb phrase. All this is a verb phrase.
It's a predicate.
Yes, and there are two parts to this verb phrase. The main verb plus ing, and it's preceded by the auxiliary verb. And the two join together to make the past progressive. Right? Talking about something that was happening in the past. So they join together. You cannot say I reading a book. That doesn't work. You cannot say we buying a dress. You need the auxiliary verb, and this is where it gets difficult. This is where you have to remember that to include it and how to include it. So we'll give an example of the past progressive by going through these sentences. So for example, look at the picture. You can see a student, maybe, and some books. So we're looking at this one up here. We've got reading and a book. So we want to make a sentence in the past progressive. So first, we need a subject.
This lady, one lady is she.
She. And the verb we're going to use?
Was.
Main verb.
Read.
And the object?
A book.
Yes. But we can do I as well. As she. She would have been okay. I is okay. Right, if we're talking for her. So we could say, but it is past progressive, and as Yonghee pointed out, therefore we need the auxiliary.
Okay, let me think that lady is me.
Okay, yes. So if it's you, if that's you, Yonghee, I would say to you, what are you doing? Or what were you doing?
I am recording this video for lecture, but I was reading a book.
Okay, so let's do that again. I would ask you the question, what were you doing?
To that question, I was reading a book.
Okay. Alright, good.
Professor, you asked me to practice the tense, so
yes.
I'm checking, right? I'm answering right form to your question.
Alright, as we noticed, so you need the auxiliary, you need the main verb, and you need the ing. You could say, what were you doing? I was reading. That is okay too, because you notice here, there are some brackets, meaning sometimes it's optional, but not always. So let's do another example. So here we have she this time.
She doesn't look like me, so
No.
it's a she.
She.
And she was speaking French.
Yes.
Tu me parles français?
Tu parles français. Bonjour.
Bonjour, merci.
Merci beaucoup. Right, yes, so we are speaking French. She was speaking French because that's the past. So I think you have the idea there. I think that gives you an idea. So we're just going to do two more examples. So you got a team here, a team.
So more than one
So
person.
what are they not playing?
They are not playing golf.
But it's the past.
They were not playing golf.
Yes, they weren't playing golf. So here we've got the example golf. What weren't they playing? They weren't playing golf. So what were they playing?
They were playing soccer, football.
Football, yes. Right, because we're using British English.
Football.
So we say
Professor Neil loves football.
Yes.
MP Squire loves football.
Yes, love football.
Humphrey loves football.
Okay, let's not overdo it, but yes, good. Alright, so that's the team. They weren't playing golf, they were playing football. But often we don't have sentences without questions. So you can notice here the second box is dealing with questions. These ones have brackets around them, and you notice my pink barrier is slightly to the right. Because first we're going to deal with what are called yes-no questions. Here, I've blocked out the "w" part. Because the be verb is very useful for making yes-no questions in English. So you don't say "I reading." You could, but it would sound a bit strange. So once again, Yonghee's picture, or someone who looks like Yonghee, is back. And so we're going to form the question. So she might say, "I was reading a book." We've got a question mark down there. Now, this is possible if you're talking to yourself.
In Korean, we can say that.
In English, you can say it, "I was reading a book." Oh, I was. But if you want to ask someone a question, you're more likely to change the grammar. So you can see here the example. The auxiliary verb comes before the subject. So we've got to move our auxiliary verb. There we go. And this question's okay. Was I reading a book? Yes, I was. So let's just do that because it's good graphics again. Was I reading a book? Yes, I was. No, I wasn't. I was watching a movie.
Was I just jumping?
Yes, jumping. Here we can change it a little bit. Here we've changed the subject to you. Well, you was reading a book. But it doesn't fit because you can see over here, you is below the line. Below the line, so you, even though sometimes you is one person, it can often mean more than one as well.
Confusing you.
Yes, you is...
You always confusing.
You is confusing. So you is not was. Alright, even though it's going to move to the beginning, if it moves to the beginning, was needs to change to were.
Were you reading a book?
And I might say, yes, I was.
Yeah, because I.
Yes.
This is confusing to Koreans. Were was. Because subject changed, you have to change the form of be verb.
Yes. Were you reading a book? Yes, I was. Or you could say, no, I wasn't. So those are the, you see, so now I say information questions, because the "w" bits are coming back. So here, yes, no questions. Now we're going to look at information questions. So information questions, you've seen them before, but here they're asking for information. So you have a what plus the be verb in past tense as your auxiliary, plus the subject, plus the main verb, ing. What were you reading?
Then I was reading Harry Potter.
Before that?
I was reading a book.
Yes. So, I was reading a book.
I mean, I was reading a magazine.
Yeah.
I was reading a newspaper.
But you might want more specific information. So, a book is quite general information. And you can also give quite specific reading information. What were you reading? So what specific book were you reading?
I was reading 1984.
You were reading, yes, but think of the boy wizard book you were reading.
I was reading Harry Potter. Oh, I didn't know that.
Specific information. So this is very specific. It's detail. Good details, good information.
Are you Harry Potter?
Yeah, Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Right. You can ask other questions. Where were you reading? And you might say, I was reading at home.
Where? At home.
Yeah, where? At home. Ooh. But today's focus is on the word when. Now, last unit we learned time expressions. When were you reading? I was reading this morning. Time expression.
This morning
is the time expression. It says the time of day you were reading. But with these when, we are talking about events. Events. So these are events. Actions that happened at the same time.
So when has two functions. Previously in the question, it's asking exactly when, which is time. Or in a moment. But then this here, when is conjunction, that explains happening.
Happening, yes. So in these examples in the book, and they can be different, but in these examples we're looking at, you have past progressive, when, simple past. It is not always this way, but in this book, these are the examples that we are looking at. So you might say, what were you doing? For example, I was buying a dress. So here, I was buying a dress. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. What happened? The idea is here, what happened when you were buying the dress? So I was buying a dress when? Oh, let's go back. When Sally arrived. So Sally arrived when I was buying a dress. You can move the when all over the place, right? Because the idea is these two things happened at the same time. But the idea is buying a dress happened before Sally arrived and continued after. So you could say, what were you doing? I was buying a dress when Sally arrived. You can give the whole answer. So as we showed, it can be a short answer, can be a long answer, or it can be a mixture of answers.
So we can use when clause to link two sentences together.
Yes. So like, what were you doing? I was reading a book when the phone rang. I was speaking French when they lived in Paris. Would be a bit strange because this is they. So sometimes the subject of the first clause has to match the subject of the second, but not always. So you have to just be careful that the two things match.
It depends on the meaning and context.
Yes. And that's something we're going to practice, meaning and context, to look at past progressive and when clauses and practice using them. And we're going to do that in part 2. Just one thing to finish, just quickly. So for example, like what happened, here you've got Roger in his timeline. And he started reading, so Roger was at home when he started reading. He was reading when the phone rang. So these two things happen the same time. So he answered the phone. Good, Roger. So the point is, we use when to move the conversation, to move the dialogue.
They linked conversation together.
Yes, and it can make longer sentences. Longer sentences are good, but don't use too many long sentences because that's boring. The trick here is to mix your sentences. Mix them. For now, think about it. Think about those verbs. Think about the verb tense. Take some notes, practice it, and come back for part 2.
That was very hard grammar. Thank you, Professor Neil.
You're welcome. So have a nice break, and we'll see you in part 2.
Bye for now.
Bye.